Well guys, a fair bit of time has passed since the explosion of this bowl. I have spent a lot of time thinking about how I wanted to try and repair it, and I've got a lot of feedback from you viewers, which was awesome. And I think what I've come up with is I want to use my 40-watt laser to essentially cut bow ties of a contrasting color wood, probably black walnut, and use those to kind of stitch it back together. And I want to leave a gap in the middle, and I thought about epoxy, but I think I might just leave it an air gap. That will obviously create a slightly oblong bowl, but for the point of this piece, I don't think it matters that there's a crack in it. But that could change, you never know. So I'm going to set up, and I'm not going to do regular bow ties, I want to do something different. So I'm going to set up the laser and figure out a design for a bow tie that looks interesting and different, and get to work. Now I've come up with a simple X on Lightburn. To me it kind of looks like the crossed laces of a shoe, and I want to cut one out and see what it looks like, because I think that's the design I want to use to stitch my bowl back together. Now I've got a piece of pine on here that is 5/8 of an inch thick. You can see this puzzle piece cut out. This is part of a gift I made for my wife for Valentine's Day. I'll put some pictures up here right now. I made that out of walnut and pine, and I cut it with my Creality laser here. But let's get this X cut and see what it looks like against the bowl as a test piece. I'm thinking something like that. Maybe make the X a little bit bigger, maybe an inch bigger. I'm worried about the laser hitting the bowl when I go to cut it out of the bottom of the bowl. But let's upsize that X just a little bit. Make it 4 inches. You can see that's cutting through on the first pass with the smoke coming up through the grate. Now I do have the vented cover for this, but it's hard to film with the cover on, so we're smoking it up a little bit. But oh. So I think the 4-inch X looks good in there, and we'll use the 3 on the sides. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut these out of walnut. Got a piece of walnut here that's about a 1/2 inch thick. All right, well, I've got the wood set up, I've got the fan going. Let's go ahead and run this. Let's see what this looks like. I think with some cutting board oil on here, I think the contrast is really going to show up well. All right, well, now the fun part. I've got to get this positioned exactly how I want it and then fasten it so that it doesn't move anywhere. I'm going to cut out the center X first, and then I'm going to have to set it up on its edge and jack the laser up to be able to cut the ends. And I obviously am not going to cut all the way through on these ends, so I'm going to score it with the laser and then probably just use some hand chisels to chisel it out. But it shouldn't be that tough. Famous last words. Now this broke apart on the lathe before I could finish it out. So I'm going to take my flapper disc and sand off where I had the lathe attached so that I can lay this down flat. All right. Now I need to, perfect. Now I think I'm going to make some little spacers to go in there, and then I'll probably wrap some tape around it. It's about a 1/4 inch gap, and I think once I get the center X in, it should hold it together to cut the outsides. Now that's not going to work, is it? Plan B. Probably a better plan. Okay, well, that should hold everything in place. Now let's just make sure that the laser can cut inside of there. All right, I've got the laser boosted up. I'm just hoping I can focus. Well, the problem is I've got about a 1/2 inch gap here. It would probably work. I'm half tempted to just try it, but I could also flip this upside down and engrave it from the bottom side. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to take that piece of wood out that I just put in it and engrave it from the bottom. Now this old Douglas fir is going to cut quite a bit easier than the walnut did, and I have a feeling that the pieces are just going to fall out the bottom, so I'm going to do this without the cover on so that I can see when it falls out. You heard that one fall out. Nice. I think I glue that piece in so that these low sides are flush, and then sand it to finish. All right, let's figure out how to get these ends done. I'm using some thick clear first to get it in position, and then I'll use the black as a filler. Well, I'm going to fill all that in with some black CA, and then I'll bring you back. All right, well, I've filled it all in with some black CA, turned it over. I used a bunch of clear on the bottom. While this is setting up, I'm going to set the laser up to be able to cut the crosses in the end. Well guys, it just occurred to me I may have screwed up. I'm not going to cut all the way through this, obviously, so my plan was to chisel out the cross after the laser scores it, and that's going to be hard to do now that I've got the centerpiece in. So I could use the laser to just etch the whole thing, but it would take a while. I have an idea. Stand by. All right, I'm not sure if this will work, but I put a set of lines inside of the X so that everything will be cut to relatively the same depth, and then it should be easier to chip out these little pieces once it's done. Let's give it a try. I'm gonna frame it real quick. I'm going to see if I can set the cover on this because it's going to be real smoky. I'll probably still get a lot of smoke out of the bottom, but that'll be better than nothing. Well, I'm assuming it got some of the smoke out, but whew. Yeah, I definitely wish I wouldn't have put that centerpiece in first. I think scoring it was the right thing to do. A little piece broke out of the top, but I will glue that back in. Being that this is end grain made it a lot tougher. Overall, the concept is there. I'm going to clean this up a little bit more, try and sink that in a little deeper, and then do the other side. So far, I think it's a win. Well, guys, I spent 25 or 30 minutes trying to chisel that thing out, and I obviously broke it. I decided to try this 40-watt laser out to engrave it, and found out it was only going to take less than 10.5 minutes. And I think I made the right choice. That was definitely the way to go. It left the grain, some of the grain, but that'll pop right out. Man, wish I would have done that the last time. So much better. I should have known better than to underestimate the power of the 40-watt laser. This one went so much better. So much better. But that's how we learn, right? Make mistakes. I got a couple of spots to touch up with the glue, and then a little finish sanding, and I think we're ready to call it on this one. All right, well, I've got just a little bit of cutting board oil left, and I think that's what I'm going to use on this one. I'll coat even the old exposed wood. Well, guys, I gotta say, I don't hate it. It's surprisingly solid. Even without doing epoxy, I don't think it needs the epoxy. I think even the blemishes of the CA glue soaking into the blonde wood like that, I think it all just fits the 115-year-old lumber that this is. It's far from perfect, but on a scale of 1 to 10, I don't think you can argue with a solid B-. I think it's acceptable. Well, guys, that's going to do it for today. I appreciate you watching. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I got a lot of great ideas from you guys commenting when this bowl exploded. Is there something you'd have done differently? Let me know. But anyway, I got a lot more coming up, so stick around. We'll see you soon.